This child isn't yours. It can't be true, you deceitful woman. Brace yourself, because this tale is intense. The type where one revelation can shatter an existence that appeared rock solid but was actually founded on falsehoods. I'm a 38-year-old guy who rose from poverty to leading the premier building company in Cedar Falls. I started out as a manual worker with calloused palms and empty pockets. But today, I direct over 200 employees in 3 states, managing contracts valued at millions annually. What I've created is the classic American success story. Hard work, precision, and unyielding ambition transformed me from an unknown into a prosperous builder. 15 years back, I wed Angela Moody, 35, long regarded as the gem of Cedar Falls. Fair-haired, clever, and the offspring of an ex-mayor, she bore the prestigious family surname, even though the Moody wealth had vanished long ago. She embodied the image of a successful man's spouse flawlessly. Fundraising galas, lavish gatherings, and maintaining our mansion on Maple Ridge as though she was born for that world. We welcomed Trevor, now 14, who resembles me in nearly every aspect. He possesses my determination and his mother's intelligence, excelling in academics and athletics. I guided his baseball squad, and we passed weekends in the workshop building items from bird feeders to furniture. Those dad and son activities turned into a ritual I treasured, even as Angela grew distant, constantly occupied with her elite friends. When Angela revealed she was expecting 6 months ago, it ought to have been a blessing. After 14 years together and multiple heartbreaking losses that devastated her spirit, we'd accepted Trevor as our sole offspring. We'd come to terms with it, thankful for the household we possessed. But from the moment she broke the news, something felt off to me. Throughout this pregnancy, Angela changed into a person I barely knew. Once affectionate and engaged, she became aloof and withdrawn. She excluded me from decisions, disappeared for long periods with flimsy explanations, and came back without any purchases to support her claims. She splurged on expensive things without cause and took hushed calls, grinning in a manner that seemed mysterious rather than joyful. Chuck Lake, my business associate and closest pal since secondary school, handles the financial aspects while I oversee the sites. He started pointing out strange patterns. His spouse Sarah once saw Angela at a coffee shop, huddled intimately with some unknown man. When Sarah greeted her, Angela reacted as if she'd been discovered. She glanced at her device nonstop, her expression glowing like she was messaging someone she valued too much. "Dude, something's wrong with her," Chuck mentioned to me one Friday during drinks. "Sarah says she's out at odd hours, edgy, constantly glancing around." I dismissed it, convincing myself it was just hormonal changes and tension. At 35, medical experts label it geriatric pregnancy, with greater complications and mental strain. Following so many failed pregnancies, I thought she was vulnerable and overly protective, finding it hard to cope with this unexpected late gift. The morning scheduled for the routine scan, Angela's anxiety far exceeded typical expectant mother concerns. She toyed with her meal without consuming it, inspected every reflection as if searching for imperfections, and radiated an aura of apprehension rather than excitement. When I proposed dining out afterwards to mark viewing our little one, she merely offered a faint agreement, lacking any enthusiasm. Our physician, Edmund Harrington, had treated our household for over a decade. He was in his 60s, with graying sides, gentle-voiced, and the sort of gaze that calmed worries. He delivered countless infants in Cedar Falls, and his reputation stood for integrity and empathy. Given Angela's history of losses and her age, he'd monitored this pregnancy closely, always blending prudence with sincere care for our well-being. I waited in his reception area, partially attuned to my device, reviewing messages about our biggest undertaking yet. A upscale resort development poised to establish Atkinson Construction as the premier firm in the area. Chuck had texted about an investor called Marcos Jennings inquiring about our operations. I noted mentally to follow up later, as growing networks always counted. Then Harrington appeared, and he appeared crushed. His composed demeanor had vanished, substituted by trembling fingers and ashen skin. He requested I join him in his private room, closed the entrance, and started walking back and forth as if unsure how to begin. "Jarred, what I must reveal is extremely difficult, but you deserve the facts," he stated, meeting my eyes with gravity. "The imaging indicates the fetus's development doesn't match the timeline Angela provided when establishing her delivery date. The precise metrics suggest conception around 26 weeks back, not 23. The statement didn't register immediately. My tone faltered as I inquired, what precisely does that imply? It implies this infant couldn't have been conceived when you and Angela were intimate. He clarified, firm yet somber. Based on your wife's health history and our talks about your travel, you were absent in Denver throughout the actual fertile period. Denver, the most significant deal we'd ever secured. I'd stayed there almost 3 full weeks, laboring 18-hour shifts to ensure perfection in every element. Each evening I phoned Angela, eagerly awaiting my return to celebrate the triumph with her. Doctor, is this conclusive? There's no error in the data. My response sounded empty beneath the burden of what I already sensed. He affirmed with certainty. I verified the figures 3 distinct ways. There's zero uncertainty. The infant's progress aligns perfectly with conception during your Denver absence. The room felt unsteady as 15 years of wedlock crumbled under a harsh, new perspective. Angela's peculiar behavior in recent months, her hidden conversations, the emotional barrier, the anxious demeanor, all connected into a vivid picture of infidelity concealed expertly. Dr. Harrington maintained eye contact, his expression mixing sympathy with outrage for me. Jard, you're an honorable person, deserving far more than this falsehood. Whatever direction you take now, prioritize protecting yourself and Trevor immediately. If you'd like my counsel, leave here and initiate separation proceedings before Angela complicates matters further. But I remained seated. Instead, I requested to view the data personally. He hesitated, then rotated the monitor my way. There it was. Figures and graphs, limb measurements, internal development, every indicator confirming a conception timeline that eliminated any possibility. The fetus was healthy, but the reality was etched in each marker. This infant could not be mine. In the examination area, Angela reclined with tear tracks on her face, gazing upward as if anticipating this confrontation. She realized the secret was exposed. Display it, I instructed Dr. Harrington, my voice steady in a manner that surprised me. Angela finally faced me, her eyes filled with terror and moisture. Jard, please allow me to clarify. I shook my head, speaking softly, my words cold as steel. No, there's no explaining this away. I examined the scan once more, committing to memory every aspect of the proof that would alter our future. Then I met the eyes of my spouse, the lady I'd cherished and relied on for 15 years, the parent of my boy, the individual who just demolished all my beliefs about our existence and home. We're heading home, I declared with an unnatural composure hiding the fury within me. We're going to discuss this thoroughly, and then you'll reveal precisely who he is and how long this has continued. Angela's complexion turned ghostly as her predicament became inescapable. That night, I made the choice that likely preserved my well-being and clarity. Rather than erupting in anger or challenging Angela with shouts and interrogations, I became calculated. I'd grown my company through meticulous preparation, disciplined implementation, and relentless focus on specifics. It was time to employ those identical tactical abilities for this private disaster. I powered up my computer and started investigating as if my future relied on it, which it did. My initial query was for Marcos Jennings, and soon I located detailed profiles about Cedar Falls' latest real estate player. Jennings' development group boasted a polished site highlighting high-end developments in several states, with Marcos spotlighted as the dynamic leader who turns visions into reality via innovative property ventures. The guy was attractive in that groomed, fake manner that instantly disgusted me. Flawless smile, costly tailored clothing, and the superficial appeal that hid utter emptiness. His professional network page indicated presence at the identical benefit event where he'd probably met Angela first, and his online posts showed a person addicted to spotlight, opulence, and external approval. Delving further into his past, I uncovered Marcos was wed to Samantha Jennings, a notable lawyer in the state capital. They shared twin girls, aged 10, and resided in a multi-million-dollar residence in the capital's elite district. The hypocrisy struck me hard, that this scoundrel was ruining several households while posing as a devoted patriarch. In the next week, I kept up my usual schedule while covertly collecting data with the restraint of an expert tracker. I informed Chuck that Angela faced pregnancy issues needing relaxation and limited outings, accounting for her withdrawal from social functions and my preoccupied state. Chuck, proving the faithfulness that strengthened our collaboration, took on additional duties without hesitation or inquiry. I engaged Paul Hinz, an ex-cop turned private eye specializing in cheating cases, known for confidentiality, diligence, and outcomes. Paul was ideal, expert, systematic, and dedicated to revealing facts no matter how hurtful. In just 3 days, Paul supplied thorough proof depicting a shocking level of planned disloyalty. Angela and Marcos had rendezvoused bi-weekly at the Grandview Hotel's premium suite for 8 months, backed by dated images, transaction records, and message histories exposing the extent of their scheme. The proof was irrefutable. Angela had withdrawn from our shared funds to cover hotel stays, fabricating tales of retail outings or visits to her sibling Muriel in the nearby city, while actually traveling 40 minutes for trysts in rooms, costing more nightly than many earned weekly. But I required beyond mere proof of physical cheating. I sought the full extent of their treachery to guarantee my counter would be total and irreversible. Via Paul's ongoing work, I found Angela and Marcos had plotted their getaway for months with detail rivaling corporate blueprints. Their scheme was cunningly straightforward. Angela would seek dissolution right after delivery, citing incompatibility while concealing the real reason. She'd claim half of my 15-year achievements, leveraging Connecticut's fair division rules to finance her fresh start in the capital with Marcos and their offspring. They'd already secured deposits on an upscale condo downtown and explored elite academies for their planned household. The magnitude of Angela's disloyalty stunned me beyond imagination. This wasn't a fleeting error or brief lapse. It was deliberate, structured demolition of our union aimed at maximizing her monetary benefit while reducing fallout from her actions. In this week of deep probing, Angela became more uneasy and suspicious, detecting my detachment, but seemingly thinking she could sustain her act through willpower. She even dared inquire about nursery shades while keeping her bi-weekly encounters with Marcos, acting the faithful partner while plotting our ruin. My admiration for Angela vanished entirely as I observed her execute this complex ruse with expertise implying long experience. The lady I'd adored had exposed herself as a cunning manipulator able to stare me down while fabricating core truths of our bond. But my arsenal building wasn't complete. Through Paul's efforts, I learned Marcos Jennings exceeded mere philanderer status. He was a lawbreaker whose operations offered numerous paths for lawful ruin. In a meeting I set up feigning collaboration interest, Atkinson Construction's standing drew him in. Marcos enthusiastically shared project info while unintentionally admitting multiple breaches and unlawful shortcuts. "You've got to get innovative with eco-rules sometimes," Marcos remarked with a knowing grin, thinking he was bonding with a naive local builder. "Impact assessments can be flexible if you have connections in oversight bodies." I agreed thoughtfully while covertly capturing every statement on my device. "That's intriguing. I'd enjoy touring your locations to grasp your approaches." In the next week, I inspected 3 of Marco's active developments, recording with meticulous care. Worker hazards, ecological harm breaching national laws, code infractions risking stability, and signs of payoffs to officials. Each tour yielded more material for the judicial takedown ahead. Marcos skimped everywhere, favoring gains over security, lawfulness, or ethics. His whole empire rested on deceit, graft, and reckless endangerment. Simultaneously, I collaborated with my lawyer Jeffrey Dunn to reorganize Atkinson Construction's setup, safeguarding holdings from divorce claims via valid measures, ensuring Angela couldn't wreck my decade-plus efforts. "Jard, if asset exposure worries you, we can establish layered entities separating personal from commercial vulnerabilities," Jeffrey proposed in one secret session. "Proceed," I answered instantly. "Secure it all, the residence, the firm, Trevor's education savings, every holding." Jeffrey, a longtime ally who'd aided my rise from scratch, posed no queries when I demanded the strongest shielding options under state statutes. 2 weeks post-scan bombshell, I was set to launch the most thorough dismantling of adversaries I'd ever devised. Unlike my building ventures that produced value, this operation would methodically raise the existences of those who'd violated my confidence and endangered my households tomorrow. Stage 1. I alerted the Environmental Protection Agency with exhaustive proof of infractions at Marco's locations. The materials were indisputable: photos, taped admissions of unlawful tactics, records of harm threatening workers and community. Stage 2. I notified the Internal Revenue Service about Marco's evasion tactics he'd boasted of in talks, involving hidden offshore funds and untaxed earnings qualifying as serious offenses. Stage 3, I reached Samantha Jennings, Marco's unaware spouse, who merited knowing her partner's secret life before deciding on her household's path. Mrs. Jennings, this is Jard Atkinson. I possess vital details regarding your spouse that require your immediate attention. Might we meet for coffee today? Samantha sounded wary yet interested. I'm uncertain what this concerns, Mr. Atkinson. Your spouse is involved romantically with mine, and they're scheming to desert both households. I hold substantial proof, and I believe you should review it prior to any choices affecting you and your girls. We convened at a cafe close to Samantha's practice, where I shared duplicates of Paul's findings, monitoring shots capturing tender scenes, lodging bills confirming frequent visits, recovered texts, and the scan verifying Angela carried Marco's baby. Samantha Jennings proved formidable, smart, controlled, visibly shattered, yet resolved to manage with expertise over meltdown. As a domestic relations lawyer, she grasped ramifications instantly and started planning amid the personal wound. This evidence package is remarkably solid, she noted, scanning with professional scrutiny. You've constructed an unbreakable argument against them both. That was my exact goal, I responded. Your spouse intended to leave you and your children for mine. They plan to seize half my achievements for their fresh beginning. Samantha's gaze sharpened with resolve. I mirrored myself. Not if I act first. Marcos is unaware I've tracked his odd conduct for months. Merged with your materials, we can guarantee he suffers fitting outcomes. We dedicated the following hour aligning our judicial approaches with accuracy rivaling strategic operations. Samantha would initiate separation that day, pursuing sole guardianship of the girls and demanding full financial audits of Marco's enterprises and holdings. Her vast professional ties would accelerate the action aggressively, surprising Marcos before he could conceal resources or scheme. Meanwhile, I'd activate federal probes while securing my position via Jeffrey's preparations. Synchronization was vital. All elements needed concurrent execution to block Angela or Marcos from evading repercussions or aligning defenses. Monday dawned like reckoning day, and I implemented my strategy with the exactness I used on large-scale builds. At precisely 7 a.m., as Angela slept and Trevor readied for classes, I placed the contacts that would devastate 2 deceptive lives. In 24 hours, the cascade surpassed my projections. Federal officers stormed Marco's headquarters with warrants for eco-breaches. His spouse submitted dissolution papers with urgent orders locking funds. Key backers withdrew over image risks. Prosecutions emerged for fraud Paul uncovered in probing. Angela saw her carefully laid getaway collapse live as her chosen partner shifted from affluent provider to accused felon facing lengthy incarceration. When she finally contacted Marcos, he sounded frantic. It's all destroyed. Agents took everything. Samantha's locked our finances. All backers are fleeing. I can't comprehend the speed. Jard orchestrated it, Angela admitted with resentful awareness of the snare. He knew all along. He's plotted our downfall for weeks. That call concluded with Marcos disconnecting, stranding Angela in her suite amid the debris of decisions that appeared brilliant shortly before. The fallout was rapid, severe, and deeply gratifying. Marcos drew 7 years in federal custody for fraud and eco-offenses. His company folded into insolvency with properties liquidated for victim compensation. His standing was irreparably tarnished. Angela delivered their girl Cora in December, entering parenthood isolated while the father served his sentence. The former proud ex-mayor's child now holds a part-time cashier role at a supermarket, residing in a modest unit, managing solo parenting via aid and scant support payments. The cheating provision in our premarital contract, overlooked by Angela in her scheming, nullified much of her claims and provided her merely survival funds. Her visions of elegance and status morphed into the hardship she'd always scorned. In contrast, my existence advanced markedly in all aspects. The separation concluded with Angela getting far below her anticipations. Atkinson Construction secured substantial fresh deals as partners valued the honesty I displayed amid turmoil. My operations grew to more regions and now staff over 400. Trevor managed with impressive resilience, though I noticed the hurt in his glances when he believed I wasn't looking. We bonded deeper through the ordeal, passing nights on builds and weekends on local trails while reconstructing our world on truth. I later discovered real companionship with Pearl Downing, a widow relocating nearby for her grown kids. We developed our bond gradually over 18 months, both appreciating the need for trustworthy roots over hasty ties from solitude or recovery. 3 years on, the change is absolute and lasting. Angela has persisted in reconstructing via true dedication and labor. She completed associate's degree, advanced to deputy supervisor, and appears to grasp at last that actions bear unavoidable results, not escapable via allure or scheming. Marcos has 5 years left in federal facility, and his former spouse relocated their girls far away for fresh starts untainted by his unlawful past. Dr. Harrington retired, yet sometimes meets me for drinks to reflect on professional dilemmas. You navigated that crisis admirably, he shared lately. It demanded bravery to disclose the facts, but all parties required confronting truth over sustaining intricate deceptions. Reflecting with clear hindsight, I harbor no remorse about initially trusting Angela, my response to uncovering the deceit, or the outcomes for all. My sole sorrow is that such profound turmoil was needed to reveal the gap between the existence I believed I desired and the genuine one I required. The base is firm now, resting on unshakable reality instead of fragile illusions. Whatever trials await, I'm fully equipped, encircled by individuals whose affection is authentic, and whose faithfulness endured intense trials and emerged unquestionably steadfast. The scan that exposed the falsehood ultimately provided the reality that liberated everyone to construct superior futures. Occasionally, the harshest disloyalty paves the way for the greatest renewal. If addressed with composure, wisdom, and calculated foresight instead of pure instinctive fury.